Hey, what's up? Welcome back to Let's Unpack That After Dark, episode number 5. Get ready to have some real serious conversation. Let me introduce my co-hosts, or they can introduce themselves.
Ladies first.
Hola, everybody. It's me, Tamika.
Peace, Shamik, Jersey. You know what I'm saying? Here to represent and stand up for the men out here.
Oh, you're not going to tell us what your sign is?
Gemini. They should know by now. For all the new ones, though, I'm a Gemini, just so y'all know. You know.
Okay. Let's talk about it. So, today's Good Friday. Welcome, everyone, for joining us. Today, we're going to talk about religion, right? Religion be a question mark, right? How important is religion to you when it comes to dating, when it comes to being in a relationship, when it comes to deciding if a person is your person? Does religion play a role in making that decision? So who's going to answer first?
It's on you. Pick one.
I'm picking shot of God.
So, so I'll go first. I don't mind. I'll go first. In my opinion, and as myself, who I don't practice a religion, I'm a spiritualist. I do feel that me and my significant other have to match each other's energy. You have to at least understand what it is that I do and respect it, and I have to, and vice versa. So if let's say I personally feel a Catholic and a person, excuse me, a Baptist, somebody that goes to a Baptist church, probably won't be able to be with a person like myself that practice Yoruba, because they feel certain things that I practice will be considered evil, and I'll have to be constantly going back and forth. Back and forth is a war. I rather the peace than having to explain things. So I do feel that people must match each other's energy and at least respect each other's beliefs for it to work.
Okay, so have you ever experienced a situation where a person did not practice the same belief as you? Was there conflict?
No.
Okay. All right, Shy.
I think respect is huge, but it's easy to cross that line when it comes to religion. So, like, I don't eat pork. I think we had talked about this. We laughed about, like, I won't deal with a woman that eats pork. Like, there's certain things you don't have to really believe what I believe, but there's certain practices that I'm just not gonna go with. Like, I can't be with a woman and live with a woman that eats pork. So it can get complicated. And then, but I think you can be with somebody that doesn't practice the same religion as long as you respect what it is they practice. And it's also something that got to be talked about, because if you fucking with a woman that's Baptist, right, and she's like, well, I go to church every Sunday. I don't think I'm disrespecting her by not going with her. So where does she draw that line of respect? Do I necessarily have to go every Sunday and shuck and jive and catch the Holy Ghost every third Sunday to prove that I'm supporting her, or can I just skip out on it and not go? So it gets funky with those lines and where you draw 'em.
So when you say it gets funky, like what do you mean? You think that it's a conflict?
I think it can be. I think support looks different to different people. So one woman might say, you know what, I'm going to church, and she's fine with you not going, and I might be home watching football. Another one might feel like, well, if you're not coming to church and tithing because I'm Baptist, then you're not supporting me. So what that support looks like is going to have to be communicated in terms of how far are we going to go to support each other's beliefs and religion.
Okay, that makes
And then
sense.
if I'm not Baptist, why do you want me to come to church anyway? Like, are you trying to convert me? That can become another issue. Like, oh yeah, you need to come. Like, like me personally, I don't have a problem going. I'll listen to the music and stuff. The choir is dope, and to me, preachers just deliver a message of positivity. So I'm cool with that. But there's certain lines where I'm gonna draw. Like, I'm not gonna do certain things because I'm just not gonna do that.
Okay. So wouldn't it be fair to say that everyone practice some type of belief, right? I think that It's all a matter of what your beliefs are, right? I pray. I have a God that I pray to, but that doesn't necessarily mean I have to belong to a particular religion, right? Because although it's, and correct me if I'm wrong, although it's a different, would there be different religion, we're all still praying to the same higher up. Is that accurate?
There's variations. Like you could be agnostic, which is I think what you trying to illustrate, where you just believe in God and that's it, and that's where you draw a line. But some religions believe there's Jesus Christ and some don't. So there's variations. You praying to the same God, kinda, but they'll switch it. Like if there's no Jesus, they don't believe it. Like Jews and Muslims don't believe in that. They don't believe Jesus died for our sins. The way they live their life is more focused as an analogy to the Old Testament as opposed to the New Testament. That's why they don't eat pork. That's why the Jews walk on Saturday. That's why they do things differently.
What I have noticed is that I know a couple that he's Muslim and she is Baptist, right? And when I asked the question, how does that have any effect on your relationship dynamic? I was told no. I was told that he respects her religion and she respects his, right? So if you think about Muslim religion and you think about the Baptist religions, right? There's so much different, right? To combine the two, for me, it's like it's so different. Like you have to really be in a real understanding, communicated relationship to understand or even be able to accept the fact that the person that you're dealing with is on a complete different spectrum when it comes to religion, right?
I
Right.
think I think it
So,
depends on what level of I don't know how to word this, but it depends on what level of Muslim he is and what level of
Yeah, I
Baptist
was
he
just
is.
gonna say that.
So you have Muslims that smoke weed and drink alcohol. Like Orthodox down by law Muslims don't do that.
mhm,
So the biggest thing when it comes to respect. So when I started delving into Islam, which people will tell you it's not a religion, it's a way of life. So that's the distinction that they'll make. When I started delving into Islam, my thing was I used to get into debates with people that were Christian. And the problem I had with them is they didn't even read the Bible. So I would quote the Bible on them and they didn't know it. I think respecting somebody's religion is
mhm,
trying to understand it and making sure you have a grasp of it rather than discount it and you don't know anything about it. I think you have to know about what you're talking about to degrade or talk about certain things. That's why I asked Voodoo Crib a lot of questions like, well, what is that? What is that? What is that? I don't have an understanding to talk about. She doesn't know what she's doing because I don't know about it. And I think
mhm.
that's what people do far too often, especially Baptist people. They'll hear Islam, 5%er, Muslim, and they'll discount it and have no information on what it really stands for or what it's about. And that's where the respect factor comes in. Because, as a practice of Islam, you can be Baptist, but if you cooking pork in my kitchen, I can't do it. So it depends on how much leeway he has. We never know what's really going on under their roof. Like, does he really pray 5 times a day, or does he just go to Juma on Friday and feel like that's good enough? Does she really go to church every day, or does she only go on the fourth Sunday? So, depending on how much they delve into their religion, is what deems you religious or not. Some people just have a title and they don't do anything that like. Is he on Ramadan right now? Like, it depends on what he's doing and the level of dedication he has towards it.
Okay. So what are the line of questioning that you give people when you're in this dating world and you want to make sure that you connect with someone that is able to understand your religion? I know you said that somebody eat pork is a big no, right? So that's just X. So is that something that you asked on the forefront the first day?
Absolutely.
Now, as a Muslim, there are certain things that I know that some Muslims do not deal with, and one of them is lipstick. Right? Lipstick is supposed to be made with pork, Jello. It's a list of things. So, do you ask about all of those factors? Because women are heavy on makeup. Some women, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, it kind of depends on your level of interest. Like that, I I got knowledge itself in '91. 5%. You couldn't eat Skittles. You couldn't eat yellow number five, red number three. They have all kind of stuff. So
Mhm.
it just kind of depends. It's the same thing with Baptists. you're not supposed to fornicate. Christians are having sex every day. So it depends on your level of dedication. Do you have certain Muslims that might want to make sure that you don't wear any makeup? I'm sure they are. I'm not one of them. But
Right.
you're not making pork chops in the kitchen. That's too much. I'm not doing that personally. Like, it's not hitting my fork or my pots or my pans.
No
But you
pork on
know,
my fork.
yeah, and then if we have a
Yeah,
discussion of
so
if we have a
mhm,
discussion about it, right? Like let's
mhm,
say you Baptist, I'm Muslim, and we get together and you say, you know what? I know you're not Baptist, but I really like it if you came and stood by me in church. I'd make that concession. If
right.
you get a woman that loves you and I say, listen, I know you like lipstick. Can you buy this brand? Because I know it got pork in it. She's
Right.
probably gonna be willing to do that. And that's where the respect comes for each other's ways and beliefs. To me.
Okay. I can.
So I agree with Shamik as well. You know, I don't eat pork. I'm not Muslim. I'm not Islamic. I'm not anything. But I chose not to eat pork because of the history that I learned of where pork comes from, and what not only that, pork is just not good for us health wise anyway. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I've sat and I've had the conversation with my husband. You know, if you're sitting here eating pork, don't expect me to kiss you. If you're sitting here doing all of this with pork, don't expect, you're not respecting what it is that I have faith in, what I have belief with my beliefs. So if you can't respect that, respect the fact that I'm not going to have no type of contact with you, and then how that's going to work because you're not respecting my beliefs. So I do feel, that's why I said, if there's no respect, he could be Baptist. I don't go to church. Me and my husband, you know, he knows what it is that I do because he was brought up in it as well. So he understands what it is. He just chooses to do what he does. He just says whatever I do.
Mm-hmm.
But if he wants to go to church, I'll go to church with him to support him. But I don't go to church. I only go to church when I feel in my soul I need to go to church. Something's telling me to go to church, and I'm just going to go to church. There's something that I have to hear. That Sunday that I choose to go to church, I'm going to hear it. But I don't go to church. But if my husband is a person that goes consistently to church, and if there's something that he needs me to, he's like, please, I know you don't go to church, but I want you there. I'm there for my husband. I'm going to be there. But the pork thing, somebody put, he's very adamant about the pork. Yes, I'm very adamant about the pork. You know, and I can't. I don't. I wear makeup as well, but I look for makeup that does not have any type of pork in it. Right now, again, I started my own cosmetic line because of that, because I don't want any type of pork inside my lipstick or any type of pork inside of anything. So that's why I started my cosmetic line for Muslim women. I'm not Muslim, but I know there's many Muslim women out there that want to sit and wear lipstick and stuff like that. So let me sit and do something for them so they could do it as well, because makeup is an art. So I do feel like it's the respect level that we have for it. If you respect me and if you respect it, it's gonna work. And I respect you, it's gonna work.
Okay.
Can I say something real quick too, just so the audience knows too?
Mm-hmm.
Just jump in. She doesn't eat pork, but she eats everything else. Just FYI, she's a foodie. She's everything. The pork is the only thing she don't eat. Just so y'all know. But I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Hmm. But I eat everything else.
Yeah, I'm
So
not.
don't go here with no pork. I don't eat Skittles.
You know
Okay,
what? You know
I
what's
don't eat
crazy about
Skittles.
the pork thing too. And this is the thing that I wouldn't say an issue, but the thing that bothers me the most about, and I don't want to throw this on all Christians, but in the Bible in Deuteronomy it says don't eat pork or touch his dead carcass. Like when you talk to Christians, they'll make excuses for eating pork so much, and again, they don't even know their doctrine. So me personally, I don't really respect them. I respect any religion or anything that somebody stands on when they practice it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if it's
Mm-hmm.
Buddhism. I don't have to know about it, but if I see you steadfast and you doing what your
Did you
doctrine says
just
you're
say
supposed to do,
Buddhism?
whatever
Yeah.
it is, Buddhism, is it Buddhism?
Buddhism, not
Buddhism.
Buddhism.
Buddhism. If you Buddhist, please don't get mad at me. I didn't know.
We
I don't
just
know.
pronunciation. We are
Yeah,
from up
yeah.
north. We from up
Yeah.
north.
Yeah.
You know, but if you stand on it, then stand. Then I'm gonna respect you. I'm gonna respect whatever it is that you stand on. But
Hmm.
you know what I'm saying. So that's my biggest thing too. A lot of people be out here false flagging, saying they one thing and they don't do anything like that until it's convenient for them. That I'm
Right.
not gonna respect.
Right.
So I'm sorry. I'm trying to my the live is not showing to anyone.
That's okay. We still rocking. We be on YouTube.
Yeah, it's all right.
We gonna
Hmm. And
we
I'm
gonna
on
monetize this
Instagram.
anyway. Get a dollar off it.
You
It's all
stop
right.
it.
I'm on Instagram.
You
So
stop it. Okay. All right. So
I'm gonna get muted because I gotta get my son. I'm transferring from the laptop to my phone. I'm here though.
All right.
okay. So let's unpack that for a second. I think that it's important for people to understand the dynamics in which the religion aspect, plays a role in people's life and how much of a role it plays, right? And where it starts, right? So, would you say that it starts when you were a child? Would you say that it's something you learned as you got older? Because these are all things that we learn, right? These are
Right.
all most of the time it's something that someone has installed in you or taught you or you know brought to you to make you understand or why it is that you chose the belief that you chose.
Right.
So talk about that for a second. Like what does that look like for you? Was it something that was installed into you by your parents? Was it something that you just learned or you had a conversation with someone?
Hmm. Yeah,
So
it was
okay,
a
go ahead,
mixture of
Sean.
both. So when I was born, my father's from South Carolina, my mother from Florida. My mother's stone cold Christian Baptist, church every Sunday. We ain't missing it. Boom, 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 boom. Saturday is up though, liquor, everything. So I'm grown up. I'm in church, and I'm seeing what's going on. I'm in the choir. I'm doing all of that stuff. But the higher power gave us an ability to think and rationalize certain things too. So as I'm starting going through history class and I'm hearing about slavery and I'm hearing about how we became Christians, in my estimation, growing up, it started to get a little tricky. You know what I'm saying? So then, by the time I was like 18 or 19, I just started having conversations about Islam, and it just felt better because I was old enough to make my own decision, and that's how it kind of worked for me. And that's where it's important in relationships, because like you referenced your friend, one's Muslims and one Baptist. If they have kids, and I don't know if they do or don't, but how do they raise them? Do they teach them both and let them make the decision? So like when my daughter comes to me asking me questions, I answer her question with a question and make her go figure it out on herself, because I think the biggest thing that a parent can teach their kids is how to think, because at some point we ain't going to be here to think for them. So I've taught my daughter to go ahead and rationalize, research, look things up, and make a decision that she can live with. And
Okay.
I think I got to a certain age, and life starts life, and so I've been back and forth. There's times where life will send you to your knees to pray, and there's times where you can't understand what's really going on, and you don't believe in nothing. So I think you transition back and forth, or at least I have transitioned back and forth and gone all over the place. So
Okay.
Hmm.
How about you, Mika?
So I come from many different backgrounds, from Baptist to Jehovah Witness to Catholic to Santeria to Yoruba to all of that. So I've had experiences from a young age with each, and I sat and stood with what made sense to me. And I've always felt that because of how I was treated by certain Jehovah Witnesses, it made me not respect it. But I overstood, you sit and you practice what you practice. And with Baptists, I felt like they just criticized too much. But then yeah, in the background of the church doing certain things, because I seen certain things in the church that had me sit and be like, what the fuck?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I said, and I say I don't stick to religion. I stick to spirituality, because there's stuff in the Quran that makes sense to me and I practice it. There's stuff in the Bible that makes sense to me and I practice it. I also look at history, you understand, and my ethnic backgrounds and where we come from. And because of me learning where I come from and my background, it taught me to sit and say, my nigga, we've been here billions of years. We've been here billions of years, and trust and believe there's more Bibles than the one that we see now.
Mm-hmm.
So I just sit and I stick to what makes sense to me. And me personally, I know there's a higher power. I know higher power. There's different tongues. There's different names for what it is that we believe in, because God created all of us. Chinese people that speak a language, Arabic people that speak a language, Americans that we speak English. He did the language thing for a reason, but it's just one. So just because I say Allah doesn't mean I'm not talking to the same higher power that you are. It's a different name. We're talking about the same energy. So I stuck with what made sense to me, because even in your being practicing Yoruba and being a part of Santeria and being a part of Palomayombe, they have houses. You guys have churches. You understand? And the same way there's pedophile pastors and gay priests, we have the same thing in Yoruba. So it's like no matter what you do, no matter what you practice, it's up, down, left, right, good, bad, all
Mm-hmm.
of that. So
Right.
as long as you sit and you do what was right for you and you feel was best for you, stick with it. My kids know what I practice. They know what I practice for a very long time. But I baptize my kids in what their father is. So even though their fathers know what it is, what the Yoruba religion or spirituality is, they still went to Catholic church. They still did communion. They still did everything through Catholic. So my kids were baptized what their father is, because that's what I was brought up and that's what I understood. The kids do what their father, they are of their father. So my baptize my kids what their father is, but I don't teach them to stick to Catholic. I tell them you practice and you study what it is that you feel makes sense to you. So if you have questions to what it is that I believe in, trust and believe, I do what I do to explain it to you. The same goes for your dad. And if it makes sense to you, stick with it. If it doesn't, there's nothing I could do for you. Because at the end of the day, when I'm not here, you're gonna have to learn eventually. So that's just how I've always thought and I did with my kids.
Okay. I definitely understand that, and I think I want to go. I want to go back a little bit, right? I want to go back to when we talk about our upbringing, right, and what we learned in our upbringing, right. So for me, um, my mother used to send us to church every Sunday, right, and she didn't go to church. So the church van would pick us up, but she would go right back to sleep. And for a while, it was like, well, what's that about? Right? Even like at a young age, it was like, okay, I had to go to church, but I could never understand why I had to go to church, but my mother stayed home. Right? So I never paid attention. Right? I knew that I was supposed to be in church and that I was supposed to go to Sunday school, but in my church and Sunday school, I didn't get we didn't learn anything. Right? So what was the purpose? Right? Was it really the purpose to get us out the house? That's how I felt. Growing up, I felt like, oh, we had to go to church because she wanted us to get out the house. But what was I really learning? Right? And then as I got older and I had my own children, um, I have my own belief. Right? I know there's a God. I pray to a God. I have my, I know what I need to do. I don't believe that I have to go into a church to worship and pray to my God. So I felt that my kids were dedicated, right? Non-domination, because I felt that they are able to pick and choose what religion that they want to practice when they become adults, right? I taught my children to believe, and there is a high. We are praying to someone higher, and it's okay to have those personal conversations. And they've all had. Both of my kids had Bibles, and they read it. Right? Did they understand it? Not really, to an extent, but that's just how I raised my children. Right? Now, on the flip side of that, I have family members that's very dedicated to the church and look at us like, there's a problem because we don't practice what they practice, right? You got family members that, I'm supposed to go to church every Sunday, and if I don't go to church every Sunday, then I'm a heathen, right? I'm a real sinner. But the reality is, I've been to some churches where they do more. They do a lot more than what I do on a daily basis, and I know that I'm not like holier than thou, right? Like this is what happens in the church. This is what's really going on. So I do think that back to the question, it's a conversation when we talk about religion in the dating world. What is your religion? What is your belief? I do think that sometimes it's difficult if I have a belief within myself and in my heart, and I'm talking to someone who has no belief at all, who's extremely negative. That's hard, right? Because then it's like, that's, to me, it makes that person a very negative person, right? Negative driven.
What's negative about it?
I mean, well, in my experience, those the ones who said to me, oh, I don't have no beliefs, I don't care, are very negative. I'm speaking from experience, not that
Right.
that's something that will be negative. Because some people just say, I don't have no belief, I don't practice anything. That's fine. But in my experience, the one that I've experienced that didn't have any thoughts about it or had so much negativity was completely negative across the board within their entire life.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, yeah, I didn't really I didn't used to get that because when I used to run around like the black man is God and boom boom boom, people like, yo, that's blasphemy. How can you say that? And how can you say this? Like, for example, people that say if you don't go to church, you're not a good Christian. The Bible says you have to fellowship, which means two or more people. It doesn't say anything about going to church to be a good Christian. And
Right.
the people that say don't go to the people that say go about going to church, they don't follow the Old Testament, like Deuteronomy that talks about your diet or things to live and what you shouldn't do. So to me, those people are hypocrites, and that's one of the main reasons why I delved into the Bible strong, so I could point out those things and distinguish what a good Christian is and what isn't. I don't
Mhm.
want to attack black culture, but black culture is so on the surface with their analogies. Like you have to go to church and look a certain way and act a certain way. You don't have to do anything in the Bible, and you're considered a good Christian. So if you go in there, catch the ghost once every 2 weeks, you wear a nice dress and one of them big hats, they think you're a good Christian. But for 6 days a week, you could be drinking, drugging, and doing all kind of stuff that goes against what the Bible says, and that's part of the hypocrisy in it.
So,
You know what I'm saying?
mhm. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Sharif wants
no,
to come up, so I'm trying to get her, send her
huh?
the. I said Sharif wants to come up, so I'm trying to give her the
Yeah.
information. But go
So
ahead.
that's kind of the hypocrisy in it, and I feel like, I mean, faith is strong, but that's what a Christian will fall back on is like, well, I believe in God, and that'll be it. That's the substance, and that's all they. That's where they stop. They might quote a couple verses, but and I'm just talking about I'm talking about in general, because there's some good Christians that believe and they live the way that their doctrine says to live. You know what I'm saying? And then they'll hit the fence back and say, "Well, how do you live?" I'm not a Christian, so I ain't held to them standards that's in the Bible.
Mhm.
That's what I used to get all the time. They'd be like, "Well, you don't do this." You damn right I don't, but I'm not a Christian. So we're not talking about me. We're
Mhm.
talking about Christians and Baptists. So because
Right.
your doctrine says that, mine don't say that. So this ain't
Right.
about a me versus you. This is about what are you gonna do to be the best Christian you can be if you out here pushing it. You know what I'm
That's what you
saying?
pushing. Right.
Because
Right.
when I was pushing 5%, I knew my lessons, and I also knew the Bible, and I could point out reasons why I felt the way I felt. And if somebody can say how they feel besides faith and belief, which if we look those words up aren't really based on facts. If they can describe it without using those words and generalizations, then I'm gonna respect you anyway. But it is what it is.
Okay. Hi, Sharif. Welcome.
Hey, welcome everyone. How are you?
Hi.
Hey, how
Hi,
you doing?
sweetheart. So I didn't come on to really add on to what I came on to say is that there's a lot of conversation about the church, but I don't, and then perspectives of the Bible. Okay, your relationship is not with the church. Okay, your relationship is with God. I don't have to be in a church every Sunday to be doing what God expects of me. One thing my father taught me about religion, because I don't care whether you're Christian, Muslim, Catholic, we all fall short of the glory, no matter what umbrella you come under. But here's the thing. First of all, I'm a Christian. My name is Sharif, which lets you know my father was a practicing Muslim. Okay? He served in the Nation of Islam. And another thing I'm going to say, and regardless of me being a Christian, I have a tremendous amount of respect for Louis Farrakhan because the reason that Louis Farrakhan is so feared is because he can tell most people more about their own religion than they can. Okay?
Mhm.
My second point, like, let's stop saying the church because the building is not it. If you're there for the light camera action, getting dressed for Easter, putting on socks and clothes, you're there for all the wrong reasons. Nobody has used, it's not good, it's God. Okay, what are you seeking? My father taught me one thing. He said, Sharif, treat religion as a bird does shit. Eat to what is nourishment to you and fly away. That allows me to be able to listen to Louis Farrakhan, to listen to my pastor of my church, and eat to what is nourishment, and then go back to my Bible and study. You see, my race and my journey is with God, not those people sitting in the church building, and I don't stand in judgment of anyone because everybody is a work in progress, and regardless of what religion you are. So yes, as a Christian woman, I would hope to marry someone in my faith and be equal of the yoke because it makes it easier for us and our family. Okay? But there's a lot of conversation going on about the church, but that's not it. It's what is your relationship with God? What are you seeking? What are you looking for? It
So
doesn't
when you
matter to me
say,
what Tamika is, what you
So
are,
when you
and what
say,
Shamik. I
so
can
when you,
respect Shamik's religion. I can respect towards nourishment and Mika's, and still practice mine.
so I have a question.
mhm.
I keep hearing you say it's about the church, but where
I
are
didn't
you
say it's
referring
about
to?
the church. I
No, what
didn't
I'm
say
saying
it's
is that you saying you keep hearing conversations that about the church. So what I'm saying is that what and what perspective are you? What do you mean by that? Like, what do you mean? Because I think that what we're saying, what I'm saying, I'll speak for me. What I'm saying is that when I speak of the church, I'm speaking of an experience that I experienced growing up. I'm not speaking of that's how I feel at the moment. I'm speaking to what when we make a decision and we decide when we pick a religion or we would decide how we're going to worship and who we're going to worship, I'm saying that sometimes it starts from when we're children and how our parents are guiding us into those religious factors. And as we get older, we make our own decisions. So when I spoke on church, I'm speaking on the experience that I have experienced with church when I was younger and the questions that I had at that moment. I think currently when we're speaking on religion, we're basically speaking, and I think we're all in agreement when we say that it really doesn't matter what religion you practice. It's a matter of what your preferences and how you feel and what your relationship is with who you're worshiping at that moment.
that's
Um,
it. Who
so
you're worshiping, what you're understanding, what you're seeking. We don't have to be in the same practice, but if we're all seeking, just like I think I heard Mika say it, no matter what listen, you call them what you want to call them. You call them what you want to call them. But I see one thing about me with this thing, and with this, what I have with God, it's not about clothes, fashion, who's in the building, who's sitting next to me, and all of this. Several times my pastor said, Sharif, I want you to do this. And I said, well, God didn't speak that to me. That's not my assignment. When He reveals it to me, then I'll let you know. Because see, even with my pastor sitting up there and bringing the word to me, he's in the spirit. And in that moment, he's in the spirit. But I still go home and I research and I study. Because what I'm seeking is a closer relationship with God.
mhm.
Not the building, not the people in the building and all of that. Yeah, they're my sisters and all, but see, that's where it goes. That's why I wake up in the morning and I give honor to God and I speak of inspirational. And there's no religion where, oh, well, the Christians and the Baptists, yeah, and I get in there and they're doing that. I've seen Muslims doing things they shouldn't be doing.
That's what
People
that's
are
yeah. That
people.
mm-hmm.
People are people.
Everybody does.
My example of what I want to do with God has nothing to do with what I see going on around me.
Mhm.
Because let me tell you something. Jesus Christ hung out with hoes, hookers, killers, and by his ways, people began to change their ways. So even if you're walking with God and you're walking, you're going to stumble and you're going to make mistakes. But what are you doing to correct them? People. I don't want anybody to want to be a Christian because I'm so perfect. No, no, I'm not perfect. I was born into sin. Jesus died on the cross for my sin. So I'm just like the things y'all are touching on, and just like you said, you made a great point, LaShawn, about your kids. Well, guess what? My kids were baptized. Now babies come in and get dedicated because then those godparents have a responsibility to introduce those children to godly living. There's a lot of things that are being touched on. When your mother was sending you to church, a lot of kids got sent to church that way. My old pastor was sent to church by his mother, and his mother would be right at home. And to this day, he's a well out seat pastor, and he's a musician of song, and then mother sits in the church now. A lot of parents, because they grew up that way, and they make sure they send their kids. It doesn't matter what my mother is sitting home doing. Like I tell Kenneth, Khalil, Kobe, and Cameron,
Mhm.
You want to get to heaven, you ain't going to get there do my prayer. You are responsible for your own salvation. Even though I'm your mother, you are responsible for your own salvation and to get in that gate. And I tell all four of my sons that I can't get you into heaven. I can't get you into heaven.
So let me ask you, Sharif. So what, when it comes to what was said about the churches, what? Because I'm trying to understand what was it that we said that could have been like kind of, I don't want to say offensive, but all I said with churches
No,
is
it wasn't offensive.
I don't, because I don't need. I feel. I've said I feel I don't need to go to church to
That's
sit and have
fine. And
any type of relationship with God, especially with me. That's the type of person that I go by energy. So if I'm gonna go somewhere to sit and honor my God, I mean praise my God, excuse me. If I'm gonna go somewhere to praise my God, I need to make sure the energy around me is the same way. So if I'm sitting here going to churches and
I'm
every
on the
church that I
podcast.
go
I know.
to,
I heard you. I know.
hmm so I'm just trying to like, if you keep saying you guys are bringing in the churches, what is it that we're bringing in about the
No,
churches?
no.
I don't
I
understand.
think what I was trying to say, Mika, is that when it's because the topic it says religion, right?
Hmm.
So when we're talking about religion, it's like Shamik is going to talk about his Muslim faith, and he's also going to talk about going into the mosque, right? And just like you said here, Mika, you said, and I respect that a lot. You said I don't need to be in the church to do what I, and that's my point.
Hmm.
Mika could be in her house and being spiritual and being around good energy and doing better than some people are doing in the building because Mika's relationship is about the God she serves. It's
Right.
not about the building. So,
Hmm.
in talking about this building, we also have to make sure because you're on a what you're on a. Everybody can see this live. We don't want to just hear. We want to know, okay, who is it you're serving and what you're seeking and how because you don't know who's watching this, and we don't want to put that out just like the building. We want to talk about our relationship with God and what we're seeking. Because everybody kept saying the church and the church and the church and the church. And I'm like,
Because
okay, but what
honest,
about
the
God?
church, if
But
you
what
really
about
think
God?
about it, if you really think about the conversation, church is a part of religion. You understand? If it wasn't for a religion, church would have not been a factor. You understand? So when we sit and we speak of churches, like I said we don't only have churches in Yoruba, we have spiritual houses. It does the same thing as a church. Is everybody's gathering together, trying to get the word, trying to get them do the mass, trying to do this, the same thing. So the same thing that happens in a church is the same thing that happens in a mosque. Is the same thing. We just saying church. There's all, like I said, God is one. God is one thing, and we all say it in different ways. Church is one thing, is said in different ways. Some people will say church. Some people will say a mosque. I will say spiritual house. It's just church is just the easier way for mostly everybody to understand. But a church is a place that is was created because of religion. It is a gathering of a religion. So when that's why we put church in. So church is a factor when it comes to religion.
And to be honest, kind of to piggyback off that point, because I think I referenced that to fellowship is two or more people, so you don't really have to go to church. But to piggyback off that, because I know she mentioned a lot of people are listening, I certainly hope they are, and hopefully
Mhm.
it has them reflect on what they've been doing and how they've been living, and and they can come back and because these are all opportunities to unpack situations that people don't talk
Right.
about or don't think about or whatever. So whatever we say, we're not dropping like we're golden. We're just having an adult
Right.
conversation about some things that are
Right.
relevant, and we respect all opinions and beliefs and things
We
of that nature.
definitely do.
And I hope somebody sees it and sees religion and watches it and thinks about, their journey and what they're doing, how they can improve or how they can help somebody else.
Mhm.
Exactly, Shami. Exactly, Shami. That's exactly the point because a lot of people do get scared just based on sometimes
Mhm.
what we say and not understanding religion and not understanding, and they get turned off. And then we don't get people saved, and we don't get people seeking salvation, and we don't get
Mhm.
people going to places, whether it be where Mika worships, whether it be where you're
Mhm.
at, Shami, whether it be where Lala's at. We don't get them into the house if we're speaking so poorly about other religions or other things. People go, well, why do I even want to go in that building? Or why do I even want to do that? So,
Yeah, I think
we
that's the thing
we're
that's always
Because
been.
going,
and honestly, I think that has to be spoken.
mm,
We have what that's another thing another thing that I feel as well is because we have people have to. It's not that people are bad mouthing all churches, because not all churches, not all mosques, not all spiritual houses are being created with that intent of what it is that we've witnessed or experienced when it came to churches,
Mhm.
because of what we experienced when it came to churches put us in a space to where it pushed us to practice something else and to see outside of that religion, for us to sit and say, I don't have to go to church. I'm not saying you don't. Like, I tell people when I do readings, I've done readings on pastors and priests, and I sit and I tell them, you go to church, but make sure you find a church that you feel is comfortable for you, because in spirituality or religion is all a group, it's all a gathering, and everybody coming together, because healing, when you go to church and you practice whatever it is that you practice, is about healing. Some people said it will start off Baptist and say, you know what, I'm going to turn to Catholic because the Baptist church I feel doesn't fit for my healing. A lot of people choose their religion because of their healing, so most people choose it because of their upbringing. But it's not to badmouth the church. We're just expressing why we feel we don't want to go into those buildings, and why we feel because of what we've experienced. It's not to stop nobody from going into what they feel they need to go. If they feel they need to go into church, go into a church.
Right. I also want to clarify. I think that it's a matter of indicating that um, one believes that you do not have to go to church to worship. Right. You know what your relationship is, and you know how you pray and have your conversations, and how worship the God that you choose to worship. So I think I do understand that. I think that a lot of times, again, some people just they're raised to be a certain way. Some people prefer to go into the church, right? Some people prefer to go into the church because sometimes when you go in person, you get a better word, right? Because
right, right.
Mm-hmm.
and we all know that not everybody understands the words in the Bible or the
That's
Quran
right.
or
That's
or
right.
um, whatever worship, whatever religion you are, and whatever book that you have that you use to understand the word, not everybody understands it. So that a lot of people prefer to go into the church so that the pastor can give them that word. Because sometimes when you hear the word, it affects you physically, emotionally better. You have a better understanding. And some people, that's why a lot of people walk out of church feeling like $1 million, right? Because they got the word and
Yeah,
they received it and they
yeah,
understood. So, a lot of times a person will get a bad experience, and this is just across the board, right? Because you also know that you have social media. People talk about things, we find out things. I think Shamik, we had a conversation about going to church, and it seemed like it's just about money, right? Like I gotta go to church, and every time I think that I've been to a church before in Brooklyn, and I think that it was I took my kids with me, and I got the word, and the word was strong, and even my kids felt it. But what happened was it was
mm-hmm.
eight offering, right? And then at one
Yep.
time the pastor was like, "Oh, I know y'all got $1,000 to give. Everybody got $1,000 to give," and I was sitting there like,
Let me
"Yeah,
tell you.
I
Listen,
gotta."
many are called, but few are chosen. And I'm going to tell you, just like people with Joel Osteen, at the end of his service, he always says, not come to his church. He says, get yourself connected to a good Bible based church. Okay?
Mhm.
He doesn't pull you. Charles Stanley is someone I always follow, God rest his soul, because Charles Stanley could teach you. I'm interested in teaching. Anybody can sit up there at that pulpit and throw some words at you. You better go back and read in that Bible and see what they were talking about, because anybody could talk a good talk. Let me tell you something. God didn't tell you somewhere to sit somewhere and be foolish and just drink the Kool-Aid. God did not tell you to do that. He didn't command you to do that. You know what I'm saying? And I understand what you mean about that plate going around 8 times. Because let me tell you something. Well, I make sure I tithe, but God didn't tell me not to pay my rent. No, no. You got to be smart enough to think for yourself. I had a conversation with my coworker who is Jewish, and okay. And I asked her, I said, well, how does the rabbi get paid? She said, well, first of all, he gets a salary. And she said his salary is paid just like a job pays you every 2 weeks or every month. And then she says anything he makes after that, she says that is done by if he goes out and he does a wedding or if he does a bar mitzvah, and that's where he gets his residual income. She said, as a church, as at the synagogue, we only responsible for the salary. She said we don't have no anniversary gifts, no happy birthday for the rabbis. No, she said it's a job. He does a job for us, and we pay him his salary. And anything more, that's on him. And I had and she's Jewish, and I had a lot of respect for that, Lashona. So I definitely understand what you're saying about those 10 baskets going around. But I bet you one thing, Cherie's money don't be in all 10 of those baskets. You have to be responsible to think for yourself. Because in this world, no matter whether you sitting in the mosque, in the Baptist church, or in the Catholic church, crooks are everywhere. The devil once was an angel too. You do know this, right? Oh, okay.
All right. So I'm gonna the second part to the question was the is it important to, I mean, you guys kind of answered it a little bit. Is it important to install in your children the same religion beliefs that you have? Does it matter?
I expose my kids to what I do. Now, what they choose to do, are my kids baptized? Yes, they are. Okay, but at the end of the day, they are responsible for their own salvation. Bottom line.
Okay.
Whatever, if my son said he wanted to convert to Muslim, he's still going to be my son. I'm still going to respect him. I would go into the mosque and I would be respectful. Whatever you decide to do and whatever walk you decide to walk, my children are responsible for their salvation. I cannot get them into heaven.
Hmm.
They can only get themselves.
I agree. Me, Shy.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of spoke to it. So like, you know, my your kids are gonna ask you questions. So like, like I said, when my daughter started asking me questions, I gave her the resources to go find the answers. Because the one thing I want to teach her to do is think. I think manipulation is real out here in the world. So if you're gonna whatever you're gonna do, you need to know your doctrine and be able to speak to it. So that's one of the reasons why I kind of delved into everything and just tried to get as much information as I could so I can make a decision that works for me.
Okay. I mean, I think that that's a good thing. I think that I do believe that sometimes being educated on certain things is more important than forcing someone to get into something that they're not in or they don't know anything about. Right. I think that we often instill in our children some of the things that we learned growing up, but sometimes they're gonna get to a point where they have to find things on their own. And kids are very impressive, right? A person can impress them, right? You remember when they used to have is it the Israelites on 42nd Street?
Hmm.
And you would stand out there
They
and
still
listen
out
to them,
there.
and they would say some things, and you'd be like, "Oh, wow, that makes sense." In Farrakhan as well, Minister Farrakhan, I've been to several of his speaking engagements in the city, and was like blown away, right? Um, and like Sharif said, I had a high respect for him and used to listen to him all the time, but it didn't make me want to convert.
Right.
Yeah, I made my own choice. I respect it. I listened to it, but that's not something that I chose to do, right? Because I don't have enough information or I'm not educated enough to understand that religious aspect, right?
Yeah, I think. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think so. With that, what I'm saying is that I think that everyone should have the ability to respect everyone's religious choice, whether whether you agree with it or not, right? Um, we know that when it comes to back to the church, right? We know that a lot of times people have feelings about the church based on the things that they hear, based on the trauma that has been that people have witnessed or even experienced personally, right? So that's why a lot of people shy away, right? But we also know that people that's just their go-to, and no one can change that because that's just their go-to. So we do know that on this Let's Unpack That After Dark, we're going to respect all religions, right? We're going to understand that everyone has a choice to make a decision on who they want to worship, and how they choose to worship, right? Whether it be on a Saturday or Sunday or a Wednesday or on a Monday, right?
Right.
That,
I would respectively go to the mosque with Shami. I mean, look at my name. So how could I be so close minded when my father was a genius? He gave me a powerful name. Google it.
why don't you tell us? You tell us what it means.
Mm.
No,
Reading is fundamental. You research it. If you're interested, you go look. Seek and you shall find.
noted,
So
noted, noted,
Noted.
noted. So on that note, I want to thank everyone for tuning in for this. Let's unpack that after dark on this Good Friday when our topic was religion. Thanks Cherie for popping on and giving us her thoughts and her opinions and her experience. We appreciate you for that. I want to encourage everyone to you know send me submit some questions and topics if you want me to talk about it. We can talk about anything on this time on this podcast because we're gonna unpack everything. Okay. No question is a wrong question or even a stupid question for that matter. But just bring it to the forefront. Right. You can send me a message on Instagram. You can send me a message on Facebook, and you can send me a message on YouTube. Please share, like, and subscribe to the YouTube channel so you guys can be alerted whenever we're on live. I want to thank Shamik the guard, and Mika all day, and everyone who tuned,
11, 11, 11, 11.
11, 11, 11, 11.
everyone that tuned in on IG, Instagram, and as well as YouTube. So, with that, you guys have a great weekend. Right? Enjoy, be safe, and be blessed. And always remember that it's okay to put yourself first and stay positive with all. And Queens get the money.
Queens gets the money. Queens gets the money. Good
Good night.
All right, good
night,
night. Peace.
everyone.